What's up everyone, Nathan back with another video on setup sweepers in Pokemon. One of my favorite things about my wall breakers ranking video I put out recently was all the comments reaching out to me saying that they liked the rankings but really enjoyed the video because it gave them an idea of how wall breakers work in Pokemon. And it offered a bit of a snapshot of the role itself in current modern Pokemon, which speaking for myself is a dream come true because that was one of the main objectives in making that video. And ever since I made that video, I've understandably received a lot of requests asking for a follow-up video on setup sweepers, which makes sense in theory, but I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to make that video because I think it fundamentally misunderstands the role of a setup sweeper. A wall breaker is easy to rank because its job is just to swap in and claim a KO regardless of who your opponent is. So it was very easy for me to just numerically go through all the Pokemon and say, this guy can break through 90% of the tier, he's an S. This guy can break through only 50%, he's a C tier, etc. It's very easy to make simple criteria and judge it from there. But setup sweeper roles are different in that they almost always need support from their team in order to function. Draganite's Draganite needs help against bulky steals. Hawlucha usually needs a terrain setter to activate its unburdened ability easily. And Excadrillll needs sand in order to sweep a sand rush. Now, all three of these Pokemon are obviously fantastic setup sweepers that any overused player needs to watch out for, but they also need completely different and varying levels of support. Do I grade Pokemon on the amount of support they need and how independent they are? No, in my opinion, that's misrepresentative. Just because a Pokemon needs support doesn't mean it's bad. That's the whole point of my Heat Rain video, actually, if you've seen that. It's a team game. I need my Pokemon to all do their roles effectively together. So again, the role is built a little bit differently from wall breakers, and it'd be disingenuous of me to rank sweepers the exact same way. But as I said, I did really love the idea of explaining how these Pokemon function to beginners, so I figure I just cut out all the ranking bullshit and give myself 10 minutes to explain all the top sweepers in Pokemon to you all. I'll give myself 45 seconds per Pokemon, and to make things reasonable, I'll only talk about Pokemon that feature setup sweeping sets a significant amount of times. So while yes, Landorus Therian can run Rock Polish and Swords Dance pretty damn well, I won't be ranking it as a setup sweeper because it runs those sets less than 25% of the time. And I would love to talk about Reuniclus's Calm Mind Acid Armor sets. The fact is that it doesn't see much overused usage lately and wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. With all that out of the way, let's get going. 15 Pokemon in just about 11 minutes. I'm a pretty fast talker, but I'll have to really kick it into high gear here. So let's go. Okay, starting off our list is going to be Scizor. This is an interesting Pokemon because I see it as much more of an underused threat, but it was the 15th most common setup sweeper, so what the hell. The thing to keep in mind with Scizor is its awesome ability Technician, which doubles the power of moves with 60 base power or less. This means that Scizor's Stab Bug Bite becomes much more fearsome with a functional base power of 90, and more importantly, Bullet Punch has a functional base power of 60. And if that still doesn't sound that good to you, consider that with Bullet Punch, after Scizor uses Swords Dance, which isn't that hard to get thanks to Scizor's solid bulk and defenses, Scizor can easily OHKO a Latios. Optional coverage moves and Bug Bite, Superpower, and of course Knockoff mean that Scizor is definitely strong enough setup sweeper to give you pause. Now when it comes to Crawdaunt, I mean, there's really only one thing to talk about, and that's adaptability. Adaptability means that Crawdaunt's same type attacking bonus is doubled, so now water and dark type moves do double damage instead of just 50% extra, like most other mons. This all combines with Crawdaunt's great offensive typing, an absolute nuke and knockoff, and other great moves like Aqua Jet and Crabhammer to make Crawdaunt really tough to switch into. Now wait, I can hear you saying, what about Crawdaunt's slow speed? How can it possibly sweep under those conditions? Well, normally you're right, and under most circumstances I describe Crawdaunt as a bit of a wall breaker instead, but that doesn't mean it can't still sweep. Crawdaunt's access to Swords Dance is amazing because it can let it OHKO the big walls of the tier. It's also amazing because it means that the priority move Aqua Jet, was essentially a water type quick attack, becomes very, very strong in the rain, like one-hit KOing Garchomp strong, or one-hit KOing Swampert strong. The basic idea is pretty cool. It's faster than Toxapex and can one-hit KO with a big knockoff, and its Aqua Jet is enough to beat the more frailer threats. So speaking of strong Aqua Jets, let's move on to Azumarril. Azumarril has access to the unbelievably good ability Huge Power, which doubles its attack. This means it can hit something like 1600 total attack after it uses the move Belly Drum, which cuts its HP and gives it 6 whole boost to attack. Similar to Crawdaunt, this puts Azumarril in a great position where slow tanks can get one-hit KO by super powerful Play Rough or Knockoff, while the faster Pokemon often get smoked by the +6 Aqua Jet. Azumarril is a great setup sweeper, but struggles versus certain bulky dragons or water resists, or to opposing priority like Rillaboom's Grassy Glide. You also want to choose the right time to use Belly Drum, because although a Search Berry combines very well with Belly Drum and Azumarril's great HP, you still don't want to be taking any strong hits before sweeping. However, the threat of a possible choice band Azumarril can sometimes help you out there and make an opponent swap out at a bad time. Gengar is a very versatile Pokemon with its high special attack and speed stat making it a very hard Pokemon for most offensive Pokemon to deal with. I almost consider it more of a wall breaker than a setup sweeper, but it did use Nasty Plot in about a third of its set, so I'll break it down right now. Whilst typing is fantastic offensively with a poison typing to threaten fairy types and a ghost typing to hit nearly everything else neutrally, it also has a great move pool to match. Gengar's two biggest problems, however, are A, breaking through the tier's top walls, and B, being outsped by Overused's fastest threats. But by using Nasty Plot or Substitute, you can mitigate these problems. I kind of broke down a similar idea in my Double Dance video right here, but you should be aiming to use these two moves depending on who you think you're going to come up against. If a Zeraora is threatening to revenge kill you, a Substitute beforehand can give you the buffer you need. Whereas if it's a Ferrothorn you need to break, you'll need to use Nasty Plot beforehand. Weavile, again, is in my opinion a really weird choice for a setup sweeper, but what the hell. So again, very similar to Gengar, it's an extremely fast and strong Pokemon with an amazing offensive typing in Ice Dark, giving you a stab knockoff and triple axle, and apparently a significant number of players run Swords Dance on it. So sure, Weavile is strong enough as is, but doubling its base 120 attack stat is definitely going to make it fearsome. At that range, you can nearly one-hit KO a Ferrothorn with Life Orb, or two-hit KO at Toxapex if you don't get Scald Burnt. But for your last move slot, as fantastic as it would be to run either a Low Kick for Tyranitar or Ice Shard for faster attackers, in this current meta, I think you would really need to run Poison Jet for Tapu Fini. The Pokemon is just way too common at this point and completely walls Weavile otherwise. Again, for my money, I think this Pokemon's strengths are better served with heavy-duty boots to let it come in frequently and threaten a priority Ice Shard, or on the other side, a Choice Band to maximize its ability to hit and run effectively, but this set can definitely still be very fearsome and very effective. Blaziken is a very interesting one. Banned for most of modern Pokemon to the Ubers tier, I think most Overused players were surprised to not only see Blaziken given a shot in Overused, but also failed to hit 5% usage stats in the tier, so it now sits in the underused ban list. As for why it was banned for so long, you don't really have to look much further than its ability. Speed Boost is easily one of the best offensive abilities of Pokemon, as it boosts a Pokemon's speed stat by 1 at the end of every turn, which takes a somewhat slow Pokemon like Blaziken to faster than Dragapult after only one turn. Combined with Speed Boost, Blazikens can either protect on turn 1 to get off that boost no matter what and to scout the opponent's moves, or they can run Swords Dance, meaning that by the end of the turn, they have a doubled attack stat in addition to that constantly rising speed. To make matters worse, Blaziken also has an awesome offensive typing in Fire and Fighting, and a very serviceable move pool, with some crazy nukes like High Jump Kick and Flare Blitz as move options. However, as strong as these moves are, they also contribute to Blaziken's biggest weakness, which is its frailty, so be careful. Tornadus Therian is one of the most unpredictable Swiss Army knives in Overused at the moment. It can be a defensive pivot that swaps in and defogs, then U-turns out to regain health with its amazing Regenerator ability, or it can be a super fast offensive pivot that comes in and instead threatens powerful Hurricanes, Heat Waves, or Focus Blasts. However, when it comes to setup sweeping, I'll start off by mentioning how hard this thing is to wall after it boosts its special attack with Nasty Plot. The combination of strong moves like Focus Blast and Hurricane are hard enough to deal with alone, but Tornadus with a doubled special attack stat can be really tricky to wall. To make matters worse, this set does pretty well on rain teams, as it not only gets 100% accurate Hurricanes, but also an additional move in Weather Ball, which becomes a rain boosted 100 base power water type attack during rain. Definitely a slept on sweeper. Hawlucha is an infamous sweeper, that's for sure, and a big reason why I wanted to make this video to begin with, because the mechanics behind it require a bit of explanation. First things first, Hawlucha is an unburdened sweeper. That means when it uses up its item, whether it's a Focus Sash or a berry or whatever, its amazing base 118 stat is doubled, making it completely untouchable. This combined with its super strong flying, fighting typing, and a Swords Dance boost means it's very, very difficult to stop. It used to have to run High Jump Kick for its fighting type attack, but it gained access to Close Combat this generation, which is a much more reliable move. Hawluchas usually trigger their unburdened ability with a White Herb removing its Close Combat defense debuffs, or a Grassy Seed, which triggers in grassy terrain and gives it a +1 to its speed stat. I should also mention that a great aspect of Hawlucha is that unlike most Pokemon on this list, its speed stat coming from its special ability means that Dittos cannot come in and copy its stat changes and threaten it out like it could against other sweepers. Volcorona is another very infamous sweeper. You can make arguments for other moves like Shell Smash or Geomance, but for my money, Quiver Dance is the single best setup move in competitive Pokemon. In one turn, it gives a boost to the user's special attack, special defense, and speed, which makes Volcorona extremely strong, especially tanky, and above all else, very fast. In previous generations, this thing really struggled with Stealth Rock, taking half of its health on every swap in, but much of that is now mitigated thanks to heavy-duty boots. However, despite this huge buff, Volcorona remains a very volatile setup sweeper that's dependent on good matchups. Don't get me wrong, this thing can sweep the shit out of you given the right opportunity, but you're probably going to want the correct set in order to do so. Some sets beat Toxapex while others handle the laddies, and some lean into Volcorona's surprisingly good defensive stats. This Pokemon warrants experimentation, not only so you can use it well, but also so you can understand what you're up against when you see them on the ladder. Next up, we've got Draganite, my personal favorite Pokemon. Again, similar to Volcorona, heavy-duty boots were a massive buff to Draganite because it can now take full advantage of its amazing ability, Multiscale. When Draganite is at full health, it has Multiscale, which means that all incoming damage to Draganite is halved. This combines with its good defensive stats to mean that it can almost always get off a Dragon Dance unimpeded. Even abandoned Mamoswines, 4 times effective Ice Shard, cannot one-hit KO it with Multiscale. And once you got that Dragon Dance off, you're in business. Dragonite has a stupid high attack stat, in addition to enough speed to outspeed Dragapult. The question for Dragonite though is move selection. You can run Outrage, Earthquake, Fire Punch, Dragon Claw, Extreme Speed, Thunder Punch, Dual Wing Beat, Roost, Aqua Tail, or even Ice Punch very effectively, and each have their own good and bad matchups. But the question is which to run, and which matchups does that leave your Dragonite weak to? It breaks my heart to say it, but not having access to really strong stab attacks is a huge problem for this Pokemon. Next up is Excadrillll, the de facto best rapid spinner for like 4 straight generations. Much like the last 4 Pokemon I've mentioned, Generation 8 has been very kind to Excadrillll and buffs its already amazing rapid spin. Now, not only does rapid spin remove all hazards from your side of the field, but also has a solid base 50 power, and now gives the user +1 speed, making it faster than any other boosted Pokemon. Throw in a Stab, Earthquake, and Iron Head, in addition to a possible Swords Dance boost, and this thing is extremely strong. With its Mold Breaker ability, even Levitate Pokemon like Rotom Heat can't wall it. However, its best sweeping set is definitely Sand Rush, where its speed is doubled in Sandstorm. Tyranitar and Hippowdon are definitely the best weather setters in Pokemon right now, and they're very easy to get in and out of the game. With a doubled speed stat and base 130 attack, Excadrillll is a damn weapon. However, all this is skipping over Excadrill's biggest weakness, which is enemy flying type Pokemon. Sure, you can run Rock Slide to shore up this weakness, that means you're giving up either Swords Dance or Rapid Spin, and even then it doesn't help a great deal versus Steel flying types. As amazing as it was last generation, Kartana has left me feeling pretty whelmed by its current Sword and Shield debut. Its Scarf set doesn't feel like it has the same impact, where it can just rip through your entire team one by one, continually getting stronger thanks to its Beast Boost ability. However, Swords Dance was also great last generation, in my opinion is the best current set for Kartana. After a Swords Dance, Kartana's attack stat is truly outrageous, and its base 109 speed stat is really tricky to deal with as well. Now, Kartana has a ton of moves it can use after Swords Dancing to break through its opponents, but not a lot of them help with Flying type swapping in quite as nicely as Knockoff does. Not only is Knockoff a really powerful coverage move, but also cripples Flying type swapping into it, making them Stealth Rock weak. Next up, we've got Clefable, and man, that's a really weird Pokemon to see on a setup sweeper list, because I always see it as a bit more of a do-it-all defensive utility mod, but Calm Mind is still seeing really high usage from this Pokemon, so sure, why not? Fable's Calm Mind sets are definitely very strong. You can either throw on a Life Orb and make an offensive set to make it really strong and tanky Pokemon at +1, or you can just throw it on any regular defensive set. It seems weird to do on an uninvested Pokemon, but with max defensive stats, Clefable is really hard to break even after one Calm Mind boost, and it quickly becomes very difficult to deal with all told. The general gist is that it's already one of the best Pokemon to swap into defensive Pokemon, like Toxapex or Zapdos, and instead of it being a bit of a stalemate in those situations, Clefable can use Calm Mind then to get its team a ton of momentum by forcing your opponent to eventually swap out. Rillaboom is the only Gen 8 Pokemon to make an appearance on this list, and its gimmick is so unique that I'm glad to see it here. Rillaboom's hidden ability, Grassy Surge, summons grassy terrain on swap in, which gives 6% health to every grounded Pokemon at the end of the turn and weakens the power of some ground type attacks, including Earthquake. This is all pretty cool, but what makes Rillaboom special is that it also has access to Grassy Glide, which gains +1 priority in grassy terrain. The fact that it has access to a stab grass type priority is already great, but you add in the fact that it's way stronger than most priority moves, and it's then boosted by grassy terrain, it suddenly becomes very tricky to deal with. Now, while I prefer Choice Band Rillaboom, especially to boost the power of a super strong Wood Hammer, it also runs Swords Dance extremely effectively. This guy's got some great coverage moves, and after a Swords Dance, there's not a lot of Pokemon who can tank its attacks. You can then pair Rillaboom with either Grassy Seed to boost its defenses, or a Life Orb to make it 30% stronger. Finally, we have the top perennial offensive Pokemon, which is going to be Garchomp here. Garchomp has always been a beast with its Earthquake to target the Steel types, and its Dragon type attacks to hit nearly everything else. However, while its 102 base speed stat is definitely great, and it's unbelievably strong after a Swords Dance, it has always been one of the Pokemon coveting a speed boosting move like Dragon Dance more than almost anyone. Now, while it didn't get Dragon Dance this generation, it did get the next best thing in Skill Shot. Skill Shot is a multi-hit Dragon type attack that can range from 50 to 125 base power depending on how many moves you hit, but it also boosts the user's speed by 1 stage in exchange for a loss of defense. Now, this shores up a lot of Garchomp's weaknesses very nicely. Dragon Claw and Outrage were pretty lousy Dragon type stabs to begin with, so Skill Shot fits in nicely. After using a Swords Dance, Garchomp can then kill an enemy with Skill Shot to get that +1 speed boost, and then it's nearly unstoppable. The Dragon ground type coverage is so good that Garchomp sometimes doesn't even need to run a third attacking type move for coverage, and will sometimes act as both a stealth rocker and a sweeper on one team. And with that, we're done. I hope this gives you guys some idea of what the landscape for setup sweepers currently looks like in Sword and Shield right now, and helps you feel a bit more prepared for possible setup sweepers you might come up against. I wish I could have covered more, but as is, I think I need to drink some honey for saying so many words so fast right there. Thanks for watching though. I'll see you next time.